He turned the car on in the garage, and my fucking horn came through the Bluetooth. Masker. I heard Dean Blundell smokes crack. Was actually the first to smoke it with Rob Ford, I heard, too.
What's Dean got to do? Dane.
It's rated R for, restricted and for a little bit romantic.
What do we got?
What is that in the background?
What is that over there by the mic?
Is he making wallets?
What
is he doing?
What's he doing?
It looks like he's... Never mind.
What's he doing? What? Is he dead?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Let's start right out. Hey, what happened?
Good day. Delicious. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Dean. We've got a great show for everybody today. It's kind of a weird show. It's a fun show. It's a radio roundtable show free of any interference by radio people. Really excited because we've captured the essence of radio with like 200 years. I fucking did the math today. 200 years of radio experience. And I trust every single person that's on the show today. I'm really thankful because we're going to kind of talk about radio stuff. We're going to tell some old stories. We're going to talk about the future of the business. We're going to talk about whether or not we'd actually be able to be successful in that industry now, because some of the cats that we have on this show have said words like stunt cock and little prick in my ass. Please welcome to the program a whole bunch of guys that I've got tons of time for, from Vancouver, 47-year veteran of the radio industry, member of the Broadcast Hall of Fame, Brother Jake Edwards, otherwise known as the Champ. The Champ is in the house. Good to see you.
Yeah.
We've also got another brother, which we're going to get into in just a minute, Brother Bill.
Hello.
Yeah, nice to see you. Brother Bill is here as well. Neil Morrison, he's in Vancouver as well. Jake and Neil are in Vancouver and in Thornbury, Ontario. Big Sex, Jeff Woods at Jeff Woods Radio is where you can find him as well. Neil Talks. I have no idea. I looked for Brother Jake's Twitter handle just to pump it out there. You're not even really on Twitter, Jake. Like, can't find you.
Don't fuck around with Twitter. No. And you won't. That's it. And by the way, Brother Bill.
Yes, sir.
What the
Yes, sir.
47 years I've been Brother James. All of a sudden, Brother Bill comes on. I've got Ralph James, you know him, with Live Nation. He's already copyright infringement. Tell me how that happened.
You know what, Jake, and don't take this the wrong way, but, when I was 21 years old and needed a radio name for CFNY, it's all I could come up with, and I didn't think about Brother Jake, but as we know, Jeff Woods, you will know, you hired me to come out here to Vancouver, and one of our initial conversations after I took the job was, well, there's Brother Jake in Vancouver, and I think you remember what I said to you, and that was, well, that's easy. I'll switch back to my original, my birth name, mostly out of respect, but also, fuck, I'm not going against Brother Jake Edwards. No way. Not with the name Brother Bill.
True story.
All right.
How did that?
The copyright infringement case. It's over.
I appreciate it.
James, no, he doesn't have any work to do.
Jake,
that.
how did you arrive at Brother Jake, first of all? And then we'll get to how Bill arrived at Brother Bill.
Okay. Well, it was Bro Jake, and my mom's maiden name was Bro, Breau. So it kind of flowed, Bro Jake, which turned into Brother Jake. But that's how it started.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was it like? Did they tell you? Did they tell you had to?
Just wasn't
What's
going
that?
to work. Jaime Lipschitz, my real name, was not going to work. Lipschitz top 40. Let's have a good
That's
Lipschitz.
not your real name.
No, I know it's not my real name.
I know what your real name is.
Oh, great!
Do you guys talk about like Jake? Do you? I have no idea what your real name is. To me, you're just the legendary Brother Jake from Rock 101 and a couple of other Q107, some of Canada's biggest flamethrowers. Is there a reason you don't go with your real name?
Well, I think it was basically a security thing. Just when I started off, I just thought it sounded cool. And then, after you get on radio and you get a bunch of death threats, I'm sure you guys have had those. You don't want them knowing where you live. Back then there was a thing called a phone book. I mean, so my real name showed up, but nobody knew who it was.
It was a safety thing. It wasn't like a geeky radio thing where some program director said to you in the 70s, go with a different name.
No, I thought maybe at first it just sounded really cool because, I thought that this was it for me. I was just going to go and work till I got to the top, man. Brother Jake Edwards, that's what I went with.
Yeah, so how do you guys all know each other? Jeff, you've got a kind of a funny story. And I didn't know this. You guys have worked together. Like, you're not in radio unless Brother Jake tells you you're in radio and hires you to be on the radio, correct?
Let me tell you the story because I find it fascinating the way it came full circle. It was the spring of '85. I just graduated Fanshawe College, the radio course, right? Send out demo tapes as we do when we get out of that course to the top 10 rock stations in Canada. And as timing is interesting, a copy of Broadcaster Magazine had come to the college radio station. On the cover was Arnie Patterson, who owned some stations in Halifax. And on the cover with him was two morning men. And one of them had this black curly hair and a mustache and shades. And he looked like a rock star. And I said, I want to work for that guy. So here's what happened next. I waited. I got one rejection from Edmonton, I think it was. I got a call from Gary Slade at Q107 Toronto. He said, I want to hire you, but I don't have an opening yet. Just stand by. I'll keep in touch. And then the phone rings a couple days later, and it's Jake Edwards. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the guy from the cover of the magazine. I can't believe he's calling. And he offered me a job in that phone call within 60 seconds. And the money, I didn't give a shit about the money. I just wanted to start at Q104, the Rock of the Atlantic, at which Jake was not only the program director, but the morning man. So I get there, because he said, how long before you can be here? I said, I'll be there in 10 days. I get there, and we work together. And a month later, the kicker is he got hired to go to Q107 Toronto by Gary Slate. So I lost my man. So, but I got in the door. And
Hey, great to be with you. I look back at Q104, the Rock of the Atlantic. If I would have stayed there my whole career, I would have been happy. I mean, it's the Atlantic right on the coast there. It's great. But, being a selfish prick, I decided to just go for the Toronto gig, mornings in Toronto. I mean, that was a goal of mine for, the short time I was in it, and it happened. And that's why I did it.
Mm-hmm. Long time too. Like you're talking 1986, 1987, right? In and about that time. If I'm
85,
87,
87, and then 9 to 92. And then there was another short stint in Winnipeg. And then I came and worked till 96 until we went to Vancouver to animate the champ.
Mm-hmm. Was that like everybody when you're in radio, specifically guys that are our vintage? And I keep in mind, I'm on the plebe end of this bargain here because these guys are legends, all of them, Bill or Neil, Jeff, Jake. But even when I got into radio like 20, 25 years ago, I remember thinking, and if you were in radio in a market that wasn't a major market, like if you were in, let's say you're in Windsor, which I was, the goal was Toronto or bust. Like it was about getting to the biggest market in the biggest city in this country, right? And if you didn't have that mentality, to me, I didn't understand people that were in the business. Like I didn't know why you would want to do radio in Windsor for the rest of your life. I didn't know why you'd want to do radio in Saskatoon for the rest of your life. And listen, I know that there are creature comforts, but when you're young and you're in this business, and back then, there was really only three means of information, three means of entertainment, right? You had newspaper, print, magazines, all that shit. Then you had televisions, and then you had radio. And you're talking about an era in radio where you weren't just stars. You guys were mega stars. Like it wasn't about the way it is now, where you can kind of get anybody from any college to come in and hump a couple shows and voice track and do that stuff. The goal was bright lights, big city, go and work for a major flamethrower and try to create legacy, try to be the very best at what you did, right? And and I know stuff changes over time, but I never understood anybody that was like, you know what, I dig it here in Halifax for 45 grand a year. This is going to be awesome.
Well, you know what they said, and Jake knows this. These guys know this. We always heard that you needed to move to improve, and everybody on this panel has moved to do that, to go to a bigger market or a different market or a better market.
Right.
Sometimes the decisions have to do with lifestyle and relationships, but often they have to do with what you say. You want to rise. You want to get bigger and better.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sorry,
Jeff. It's funny because you guys talk about moving markets. I mean, my story was complete opposite. I mean, the market moved with me, if you will. I mean, I grew up in Brampton, Ontario. That's where CFNY was. I got in the door and rode the CFNY Edge train about as far as I could 16 years in. I didn't have to work in a smaller market. Moving to Vancouver, Jeff, when you brought me out here, was my first move. And a good one, I thought. I loved it out here, and I still love it out here.
Mm.
Yeah, for me, it was just going to a market, getting on the air, doing my thing, listening to everybody, moving my voice around. I mean, anybody out there can tell you that's been in radio for a while, the transition your voice goes through. It's amazing how you get better and better and better. And I think moving from market to market really does that. First of all, you get to handle different people. The Winnipeggers are not like the Calgarians. Those aren't like the Haligonians in Vancouver. Well, it's Lotus Land. I mean, there's things you have to adapt to, but I think it makes you a well-rounded broadcaster that you can handle anything. And every time I was in a certain position, I never thought about going to Toronto. It just happened. You know, people started calling you and would say, "Are you ready to go?" And I'm going, "Where?" "Toronto." Sure. Gary Obie hired me in Winnipeg when I was in Moncton. He was just driving through the country looking for some voices, heard me and said, "You're either a burnt out jock from Chicago or you don't really know what you got." I said, "Well, I've never been to Chicago." And the next thing you know, I'm on a plane and I'm in Winnipeg and I step off into minus 45-degree weather. I mean, seriously, thought it was a bad mistake. And then I got there and things just progressed. And, you know, I just loved the way I moved around. I feel great about my career and just loved every minute of it, honestly.
You're the only member of the Broadcast Hall of Fame on this call, by the way. Just to let you know, you were the only guy, which I think is a shame because Woodsy's got to get there somehow. Brother Bill, if
no chance.
But what was that like? Okay. Like, what's it like to be canonized? I mean, you know, I think for a lot.
What are you talking?
What's that? What's that, Jake?
You froze.
So you guys should all be in the Hall of Fame. And first of all, you don't want to wait until a posthumous award. You know, Brother Bill here, but you know, he's 82 and he's just passed on in White Rock. But we, you know, I mean, like, get people in there. I mean, you know, long here these in the Hall of Fame. You know, Dick Doink from fucking Lethbridge, Hall of Fame. Who is he? What's he done?
Difference is, Jake, is that we don't know who that guy is, but I'm not blowing smoke, man. Fucking everybody knows who you are in this industry. Everybody. Some positive, some negative, but most, you know, 99% positive.
Oh, sure.
When I got back to Q107 in the late 90s, I said, "Where's the champ?" Because Jake, you were out in Vancouver by then, and they didn't have the champ on Q. And so when I became the assistant program director and then the program director at Q Toronto, I'm like, you need to bring that back, because more than any character ever on the radio in my life in Canada, that's the character that people most often were imitating in the line at the grocery store or the Home Depot or at the party or the barbecue. Everyone did the champ. So I said, let's get the champ back on the radio. So we did. And people were like, "Hey, the champ's back. Where did he go?"
When I told my girlfriend, who's a couple years older than me, when I told her I was doing this, first thing out of her mouth when I told her who I was talking with is an impression of the champ. That's the first thing she did.
Always.
I mean, I'm like,
Your-
fuck, why not
that's
call
your
him
girlfriend.
over? You can sleep with him too.
Let's get,
and that's
let's get in the ring together
Yeah.
with the champ.
One of the greatest things ever, Jake. I remember it that
Bring
1
Don
month
Cherry
that we
Blue
worked
the dog.
together. The summer of '85, I started working with Jake, and he started by doing the champ live without his voice slowed down or anything. He did it live every morning on the morning show, and it was great before it went into syndication, and then it was even greater.
Mhm.
How did it start, Jake?
Yeah.
There's my question.
Yeah, well, of course, McLean, the first, champ, strong fighter that inspired me to come up with the double entendre. The Punch Drunk Fighter I was inspired by them, and they were friends of mine, and they became part of the champ family. We did shows together, and they're both dead, the McLean boys, but that's where it started out. And the double entendre thing, because that wasn't a big comedy thing back then. The double entendre, we really kind of tripped over it in '84, '85. And I wrote, the first one I wrote was about being in Halifax when computers were coming on. And the guy takes the champ out back and said, I'm looking for IBM, or I'm looking for something smart. He said, take you out back and I'll show you my wang. And wang computers, right? So fucking people started laughing. This is easy. Don Cherry and Blue the dog? I mean, they just started falling. Like, let's take her out back and dick her over the couch.
One of my
That's a lot of
favorite.
makeup you've got there. Your wife is that cosmetologist is going to town. Looks like you blew your whole wad on your wife's face. I know. It just
Keep going.
Fantastic.
I feel like I got a front row seat to radio
classic,
history here.
Absolutely.
You're sitting around, and these things used to just come to me. I'd be looking at my neighbor, and he whips down this old oak tree that's been in there, and it looked like it was going to fall on one of the houses. And then he goes out and chainsaws the thing, and his wife starts putting flowers all the way around this fucking thing. And I called the guy Old Man McGinty, and his wife just put her tulips over Old Man McGinty's stump. I mean, that shit happened. People go, how do you come up with that shit? It's right there.
Jake, do you think you'd be able to get away with that today?
I would on the internet. No, I thought about, because we're doing it now, and I was thinking about having my own champ channel, and just run. I've got 5,000 of them in the can. I mean,
Holy fuck.
just let them run.
That is unbelievable. You got 5,000 champs. Because I was looking at on YouTube as we were finding some videos, sourcing video for today, and we'll play one of the champs. I don't know when this is from. It has like 400,000 downloads, and there's an entire channel dedicated to the champ. And we'll play this. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to get away with this on the radio anymore. But at the same time, listening to it, when I was listening to it this morning, and we'll get to it. It's like this, oh, okay, I remember that time. I remember that time when those jokes were okay. I remember that time when you could use double entendre without someone saying, I know what you really said, and then getting fired for what you really, someone else thought you might have said, or someone else thought you meant.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
I want to play this one for you, Chris, if you have it. This is the champ.
Hey everybody, it's me, the champ. Ever since I've been the champ, been losing it, been out of my mind, been crazy, been really, 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 really in pain with my teeth. I've had a lot of problems with my teeth lately. And you probably heard every one of them, me going to the dentist, and I never believed in the tooth fairy until I've seen my dentist walk, right? Anyway, he comes over to me. And he says, Champ, would you like some nitrous oxide? I said, well, I'm not into drugs, right? I don't like the drugs. I don't like the gas thing, right? He said, I gotta give you the needle, Champ. You're a big, tough boy. I remember when you fought Liston, right? You fought Liston. He went down. He snapped. You get back up, and he hit you so many times. I couldn't believe the pain you could take. I said, Doc, Tell me how much pain I'm going to feel. He said, well, you might feel a small prick in your mouth. I said, pardon? He said, you might feel a small prick in your mouth. Well, I lose it. I snap. I grab the nitrous oxide, right? I put it right on his face. He's laughing. He's just laughing. He's floating around the room. Here comes the double hammerhead scissor kick to the groin. Right! I hit him so many times with the right he was begging for a left. Put him down in the dentist chair, spun him around, he was still laughing. I stopped him with my big number 12. Boom! Right there on the ground. I said, how's that, pal? Does that look like I'll feel a small prick in my mouth enough for you? Ever since I've been the champ.
Beauty.
And you can't see. I listen to that. I listen to that, and I think two things. I think the brilliance of it back then when no one else was doing that kind of stuff. The legacy that it's left you, and whether or not you fight, between the brilliance of Brother Jake Edwards and the brilliance of the champ. Like, do more people know who you are because you're the champ, or they know who you are because you're you?
I still get called everywhere I go. Hey, champ, how's it going? It came on so fast. We went out to the university. I think it was University of Waterloo. Did a 10,000. There was 10,000 people in the audience, and these were fucking 18 to 22-year-olds. And I just couldn't believe how quickly it grew. I did another big show in Thunder Bay, another 10,000 people. It happened so fast, and I was just riding this fucking big wave. I didn't think it was ever going to end. And then it started to get a little monotonous when people would see you. Hey, do the chant for me. Well, fuck, why don't you grab your skill saw and build me a goddamn chair? For fuck's sake.
Right?
Christ almighty. Yeah. So, after a while, it was, it was a bit. It was like any rock band playing the same song over and over again. That's what they want to hear. So I understand it. Mm-hmm. But after a while, I just I put it on the shelf and then, started doing some more syndication. I mean, at one point, it was syndicated in North America on 350 radio stations. Do you remember the Bird, the broadcaster, the Bird?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Vegas.
Do you remember how many? I think his name was John Kemp or something like that. It was called the Bird. And he heard me doing it in Toronto. Then he went to somewhere. And he started ripping the bit off. So I look at, it was Billboard magazine. They had this thing in the center, and we want to congratulate the Bird, the best original comedy bit on radio, the champ. Well, that's when I fucking lost it. I fucking lost
it. What did you do?
I just cease and desist, did everything. Yeah. And if I saw him today, I would have to fucking hit him.
What a dumbass, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, there's so many different parts of radio that people say are bogeyed or stolen. Like, you couldn't do anything on the radio for the last 10 years that I was on the radio. You couldn't do anything on the radio without someone saying, "Oh, you stole that," or "You took that." But like when you're taking a syndicated personality from 300 different radio stations and renaming it with the same name, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that was a little tough, but anyway, all is forgiven. And
so, did you not have licensing on that, Jake? Did you not have licensing on that on the champ? Sorry? Did you not?
Absolutely. We're licensed.
Oh, people can still steal shit. You just have to go after them, which you did.
Oh yeah,
right.
They can, and they do. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't tell me any one of us haven't tried something that maybe you heard somewhere else on the air just for fun. Like, let me tell.
Based a career on it, Jake.
What's that?
I based my career on that. Hey, I'll use that.
Right.
Theft.
Yeah, starting with Brother Bill.
There we go. Let's start from the beginning.
Woodsy, what were you going to say?
Let me talk a bit about Jake's, in my estimation, the champ was amazing, obviously, and his characters were fantastic. I think his real value lay in something I told him when I got to Vancouver. 2003, I went to Vancouver and I programmed a couple radio stations, the Fox and Rock 101. So I got to work with Jake again because he's the longtime morning guy at Rock 101. And Brother Bill went to the Fox. So Jake didn't love morning show meetings, and not many morning men do. But I said to him a couple things. I said, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You know what you're doing. I'm here to assist you. You know, if there's a deal we can make with this client or that client, get you some more money. Not that he needed more money. He made a lot of money. But, you know, I was there to assist him. I was there to help him out. So he understood after a couple of meetings that I wasn't there to say, hey, what are you doing that for? And you should be doing this. We'd ride our motorbikes out to West Van and we'd have a meeting, you know, have a healer and have a laugh and ride home. And that was that. But the only advice I think I gave Jake in the 2 years I was at Rock 101 was more stories. Like, just because when you're at a party with bro Jake, whether we were down at the River House and hanging out with the rest of the morning show, or we were at a party or at an event,
Joe Fortes with Frenchie.
There you go. Everybody congregates around Jake. He's the center, and he's not the center because he's bro Jake. He's the center because he tells the best stories. I said, just more stories. Do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he did.
Yeah, stories are.
They were,
I remember being in Toronto and I was going through the lobby of the hotel, and this British guy, you're that new fella on the radio, Brother Jake. He said, I love your fucking stories. I love your stories. And it's all about telling stories, right? It's all about telling stories. And
it's a gift. It's a gift, man. You can't, not everybody's good at telling stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not everybody likes to tell them either. Like, it's one of the things that I'm not a big fan of, and I love good storytelling. But when you have to sit and think about the story that you're telling, and now you know the way that radio works, guys that are our vintage, guys that are from that space that we're from, guys that have done that job back when, you know, Twitter wasn't around, Instagram wasn't around. You didn't get instant feedback from everything that you did. You didn't have someone tweeting you in the middle of your shows telling you how much you fucking blow. You know, it's such a different world. And when you talk to people, Jake, I don't know how long you've been off the radio for. 2 years? Is that, am I right about that?
Year and a half.
2 years?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Woodsy, you're still on the radio in some capacity with your stuff, but not on a regular basis. So it's been a couple years for you. Billy, it's been a couple years for you.
What's that? Last March. Yeah.
Last March. So a year for you. Yeah. It's been a couple of years for me. I have no desire to go back. Like, I've got zero desire to go and do a radio show because I know it's so one-dimensional. But I'd be interested to find out if any of you guys think you could actually do radio on the radio today. Jeff, probably a little bit. Billy, probably a little bit. Jake, I don't know if guys like you and I, you know, unless there's a sea change in woke culture, I don't know if, you know, you'd be allowed to do the champ anymore. I don't know if, you know, if anybody would be comfortable enough saying to guys like us who drove a ton of share and did the job that we did, but have the reputations that we do for being offside or pushing or, you know, kind of hammering that envelope. You know, I'd be fascinated to know if guys like us will ever have the trust of the industry to be able to go back and do that job again the way that we used to do it. And I'm not saying with the content that we used to do, but the confidence to be able to go in there, wheel a show for 4 hours, feel really good about it and leave. Because that reality of being in that bubble on the radio anymore doesn't exist, right? You know, that was the happiest I ever was, is when I could get in the studio. I got a microphone in front of me. You're captaining the ship. You know exactly what you're doing on the show. You know where your features drop. You know what you're going to say to this person. You understand the MO, and then you go forward. But with the distractions that we have and the way the woke culture has really kind of destroyed, you know, the ability for mainstream media to actually allow people to do a great job in that format, I don't know if we would be... if we would last that much longer than anybody else in this industry now.
Jake.
Well, I remember it used to be, you know, wake and bake with Jake. Now it's woke and fucking. It's like, how are you, honest to God, to be able to, as you described it, Dean, I mean, that's it. You're around a console. There's a mic switch there. You flip it on, and it's you feel energized. You feel like you can get away with just about anything. And by the way, there were a lot of bits and a lot of things that I did for sure, that got me fired. That has happened. And would I have done them again? Of course, I would have done them again. If I look back at what we did in the 80s and 90s, I mean, just from the promo stuff we used to do, it used to be war out there. When I went to Halifax, Jeff, I remember, I don't know if you remember the big 2-ton rock we picked up with a front end loader and put it in the driveway of the Chum building that said the Rock of the Atlantic, Q104. And it made front page. It was front page in the paper. Getting on stage with Streetheart with friends of mine. And it was a Chum Presents. I go, oh, here's a special guest. I get on stage. I just want to say that we're coming to finally bringing some great rock and roll music, Q104. And the Chum guys flipped out and they pulled all the Streetheart music right off the airways from coast to coast. That was it. And then Kenny Shields said I would do it again. It was just one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun.
But that was, and you would do anything back then. I remember every time we would get in trouble for some of the content that we would do and it would hit the newspaper. These guys did this again. Look at these guys. I would often say to our program director, who would be losing his shit no matter who it was, I would say, listen, this is fucking free advertising, you meathead. Enjoy it. Like, enjoy the battle, enjoy the war. And that was one of the things that geeked me up about doing business in radio. Was it wasn't just the consistent ability to be able to deliver top-notch content or drive share. For me, it was I never got up at 4 in the fucking morning to lose. Like I didn't have it in me. And so those are the people that I identify with. Like, I hear your stories about war. We parked a fucking 18-wheeler in front of the State Theater with our logo on it and absolutely destroyed a WRIF show. And I loved every fucking second of it. I thought it was the greatest thing we'd ever done. And it was all over the news. And then you get hauled into someone's office, like, this is a fucking bad idea. I don't know how we okayed this. And I said, does it matter? Like, does it matter? This is because that kind of fed the magic back then, right? The magic was, we're going to war against those guys across the street. Every SharePoint means something to me. And I'm not getting up, destroying my life every morning at 4 o'clock, sleeping the rest of the afternoon and being an ineffective father in the morning. So, or not even being there just so I can be friends with the guy across the street who, I have to beat. I have to beat if I want to fucking live.
If I may, just for a second, I mean, part of the reason why the kind of broadcasters that you and Jake are specifically, part of the reason why you don't hear that anymore, why you don't hear these stories anymore, is because the competition is now down the hall. It used to be across the street. It used to be the competition. Yeah. Now, Q107 and The Edge are owned by Chorus. Rock 101 and CFOX are owned by Chorus. So there's the competition isn't really there anymore. So what, you can't go, I could, never go down to Robin LaRose at Rock 101 and try and burn him on the air. He's, he's a guy like me working for Chorus trying to, get by.
That's certainly part of this.
Lots of times when you were on Fox, I fucking burned your ass lots of time there, Brother Bill.
Every chance you got, brother. I know that. Every chance you got.
That's part of the story. The bigger part of the story, and tell me if I'm wrong, guys, is that corporations are risk averse. They're averse to risk because they have debt and because they have shareholders. So while proper program directors, the Stu Myers of the world, and even the John Hayes of the world who ran Chorus in the early days, they said if you don't have haters and you don't have people that are finding you repulsive, you're not doing your job, because we can't have everyone loving us. And if everyone loves us, no one's talking about us. It's your haters that give you the most press. But corporations who own 98% of media in North America, they don't want risk. They don't want the waves to be, they don't want the feathers to be ruffled because they have shareholders. That's their number one concern, not the listener. Not you.
I also think there's a
Lachlan
change.
Cross, ladies and gentlemen. Lachlan Cross.
Sorry, I'm late. I was at the bar. I was at the bar drinking.
Because he's still in the radio. He's still on the radio, so he was drinking.
I think part of the other reason why you have a situation where you don't have a lot of conflict on the airwaves anymore is because of the personalities that are on the airwaves. There's been a big shift. Everyone is like the millennials, they all just want to get along, right? Like they can't deal with conflict. I think that's a big part of it as well.
Agreed.
They don't know how to deal with it. No, I agree with you,
Mhm.
Lachlan. Nice to meet
Yeah.
you, by the way.
Yeah.
How you doing, guys?
Nice to see you,
Yeah,
Lachlan.
pussies.
I don't think I've ever met you before. I've done lots of stuff with you, champ wise.
Yeah, no, we've met numerous times, Jake.
We have. Where?
Everybody remembers Jake.
Jake,
As
you
he
slept at
grabs-
my house for a week.
As he
Jesus
grabs a
Christ.
beer. Yeah. No, I put you up in the 80s. Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
I'm
No, you-
kidding.
With your
But you know what? Like, I guess covering the whole gamut, and I agree with Jeff. I mean, competition was a great thing back then. Like, we had program directors, and I'm sure you had some too. Jeff would have been one of them. Billy, I don't know. We've shared the same bosses. None of them were particularly effective. However, they used to like that part of the business, right? And now there's this, conflict averse, as Jeff points out, because the only thing they're concerned about is the brand, right? The only thing they're concerned about is the brand that owns the actual radio station. They're not concerned about actually doing the work. They're not concerned about actually doing content. They're not concerned about driving numbers.
No, they're concerned about money.
Well, yeah. And I wonder at any point in time, is that why radio is effectively dead? Is it dead? Is it dying? Is that who we blame?
Partially. There was a CEO at one of the big American corporations who a couple of years ago said, Spotify's not a competitor of ours. To which I say, everything that gets attention of your eyes and ears, whether it's records back in the day and cassettes, whether it's television back in the day and print, but now it's YouTube and it's the streaming services and it's video games. It's everything you can do other than listen to the radio. It's all competition, and it's rather fragmented because there's so many choices, so many options. Netflix. There's so much you can do and see and hear.
It's a whole bunch of porn on the computer too.
Well, that's my number one
recently found
go-to.
that.
A
Is there?
ton of porn.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah, Jake. 80%
What's
of
your
the internet
favorite
now is pornography.
site?
You're missing out.
Just
What's your favorite
type in
site?
free porn.
Yeah.
And then hit the link.
Porn.
But do it on your wife's computer.
Right.
Yeah. Do it on your wife's browser. Don't do
She
it on
loves
yours.
that. She absolutely loves that. But let's go back to it takes the stress off of her. Believe me. When you've been married for 40 years, she's
It's an
decided to
outlet.
go with the granite countertops.
Where the fuck are you broadcasting from today, too, Jake? Where are you?
His sauna.
I am in a fucking. This is me.
I
in
can't
a
see the
sauna
top of your head.
now.
There you are. There.
Why the fuck are you broadcasting from a sauna?
Well, because it's the only
bathtub was
space I
occupied.
can actually control. Let's go to 2009 podcast really started to fly here.
Yeah.
Remember the Dear John stuff, the fucking serial podcasters that were on. It took off. Look at Conan right now. Conan on TV last night for a half an hour. This guy, major network stuff. He got booted to a half-hour show. Now he has one of the largest podcasts in the world. He's just that good. So this is a famous guy that's on as a podcaster right now, and doing well. And if you've seen the new Kong movie, the main character is a podcaster. This is what's happening, kids.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
here-
it's not
yeah,
something
sorry.
like I remember when we had jobs, when we were on the radio.
Hey, hold on. I'm still employed.
Well, yeah, you outside of you,
Barely.
Have you checked your email?
You would hear about a radio guy. Yeah, not for long. You'd hear about a radio dude that started a podcast, and we would talk about guys like that on the radio, like they were pariahs. Like you'd go, oh, they got a podcast, do they? Oh, that's incredible. Good for them.
Yeah. Well, Dean, hey,
Yeah.
hear me
Good
out.
luck.
Sorry, Jake. Nowadays, you're a broadcaster second, and you're a content creator first.
Mhm.
My LinkedIn page, that's what I use. I use content creator. Things like this is creating content. They're not looking for a broadcaster anymore. They're not looking for somebody who talks on the radio and that's all they do. You have to do multiple, your job now is multiple facets. I mean, you have to be on all of the, social media. You got to be creating content there. Lachlan, you'll know this. You're working right now. It's more. It really is. It's more than just opening up that microphone. And Jake brought up the point about Conan O'Brien. I think if you look at late night television, that's sort of what broadcasting is now. People don't watch late night television live anymore. They go to YouTube the next day and watch the best bits. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what broadcasting is, I think, right now, too. You have that show, but you have to have those best bits on social media the next day so you can get a wider audience viewing, and then they can make hopefully some money off of it.
I remember being pulled into a boardroom back years and years ago when Facebook was taking off, and the program director sat us down and said, you know what, guys, there's this new thing. It's called Facebook, and I think you should probably sign up. And I remember a comment from one of the older broadcasters that was on another radio station that was doing mornings, and he went, it's a fucking fad. And I remember they walked him out about 2 months later.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. I was like, maybe I should get on this Facebook thing, because they just fucking fired Ron. So you figure things out, right? And you try to survive. And I mean, I'm technically I'm an idiot, but I've had to learn all this shit. And then now Dean's got me fucking logging in every day on some new stream thing. It's fucking bullshit.
This is the reality of the industry right now, though. This is what you have to know. Otherwise, you're out.
And it's fun. It's fun. All we have to do is tell some stories and talk and hang out. It's the same shit. It's just a different technology.
Fucking Woods is on OnlyFans, waving his dick around every Saturday night.
Did you know that? Did you know that, Jake? Is that Woodsy's got an OnlyFans account where he reads like adult porn?
No,
are you joking right now?
Be good at
yeah, of course.
He's totally good at it. He gave me a boner last week.
Yeah, dude, he's so good at it. He gave Lachlan an erection last week. Like, seriously, really fucking good at it. And
Total
he has
rager.
subscribers. Like, talking about having to do a whole bunch of different things when you're a broadcaster or a former broadcaster. You know, that's Jeff is living fucking proof of that.
I just woke up in the middle of the night and said, "Wait a minute, I can write dirty stories and read them into a microphone, and somebody might pay me. There it is, eureka! I found it. My passion." It becomes dollars. So what the fuck?
Yeah.
I just wrote one today.
It's called pivoting, Jeff, and you've done it well.
Well, you know.
Yeah, pivoting
is
good.
And you pivoted with your cock.
Whatever it takes.
What's that, Jake? What is it? What?
Is it spank bankable? I mean, can you
totally spank bankable?
I mean, you listen to it and say, is it that good?
It's 25 minutes long, and I had a couple reach out to me last night, and they say they usually get about 12 minutes in if they're lucky. So I guess it is.
Jake, it's really good.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh
it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Do you have a snippet there you can read for Jake? No.
Oh man.
Yeah. Bring some up.
Yeah,
it's pretty
nothing
filthy.
better reading sexy stories to
They said
4
12
other
minutes.
middle-aged white dudes.
Jeff, they said 12 minutes.
Sometimes they go 12 minutes. Sometimes 2. It just depends what the what the
I was going to
content
say
is.
probably 11 and a half minutes more than I'd last. That's what
I thought he was starting there.
You got something? You got a little content there for us, Jeff?
You talk about something else, and I'll see what I've got. I'll find you something good.
I'll find you something good.
Grab the ice, Jake. Grab the ice.
But going back to what we were talking about, you might want to chill them out. Going back to what we're talking about, that this is the new reality for broadcasters, right? Like, this is where we are. Is that everybody has to look for. If you still want to be operational in this industry, if you still want to produce content, you need to find opportunities like that. And 10 years ago, had Jeff Woods decided to do bedtime stories and read porn, I would have made fun of him mercilessly. Mercilessly. I would have ethered his career on purpose. But now, because I get it, I'm like, hey, listen, it's not for me. I wouldn't listen to it. But fuck, good for you for actually going out and trying to make some cheddar. Good for you for going out and doing something totally different.
Well, let's face it, and thank you, by the way. If I worked for the corporation, they would not allow it. I mean, I have a friend who went on OnlyFans. She was going to post not nude photos, but photos with skimpy bikinis and stuff. And the corporation got wind of it, and they shut that shit down. You can't be in contravention of the policies and rules of the corporation, or you're fucked. Get out.
Hey,
Does
Jeff, what
anybody
is
remember one
OnlyFans?
moment? Does anybody remember one moment that you had on the air that involved a lot of skimpy stuff? Jameson on. Anybody have porn stars and have those in? We broke the CDs, stacking CDs on the nipple world record live video that crashed the site. But I remember it was 12. I was going for 13. I was shaking, couldn't believe it. And you're spinning them around. I mean, those kinds of things that my kids used to listen to, they would go to school and people at school just go, your father is a fucking pervert. Like, what is he doing? He's got listeners. They're just fucking all over the place. I mean, listeners, they love that shit. I remember Neil McRae. I had some porn star was in there. And I said, you know, Neil, wouldn't it be neat to have her crawl under the table and be the first guy to have an experience live on air? He said, oh, fuck, I think I'm going to do it. So he gets there, crawls under the table, and nothing's happening. The gear's gone. There's no clang, clang, nothing. So that bit went for a shit. And we got in a lot of trouble for that one. Meanwhile, the building is tilting to the left because so many people from the chorus is in there watching to see if it's going to happen.
Jake, you should tell the story of the times at Rock 101 where you would look out the window at the Four Seasons across the road, and what would you see?
Oh, I remember you doing this, Jake.
Yeah.
Play by play.
This was an afternoon. It was sunny, and of course, the sun is peering right into the Four Seasons windows. And there is a guy that's there. Some guy comes in, looks like he's got some kind of tool kit. He's there to fix a fucking TV or something. Next time, he's balls deep on this guy. He's just laying back, and we're just like, holy fuck, is this happening? So it's the Unicon, you got to come out to the studio one-on-one. You're not going to believe what's happening over here. So everybody's watching, and then he's done. The other guy sits down. Boom, 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 starts doing it. And then I go over to the traffic girl, and the traffic brought to you, and she's killing herself laughing. Brought to you by Mr. Lube, doing it right in front of your eyes. Well, for 3 hours, we couldn't even catch our breath. I mean, it was not just play a fucking record. We couldn't do anything. It was just so funny. And the other one was this other guy. They had a porn. They were shooting a porn there. You could see everything. And this guy's shaving this girl, shaving everything up. And the guy's going for like an hour and a half. And we're going, how is this possible?
Must have been Greek.
Best content ever.
It's easy when it's there in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not everybody makes that easy. Not everybody is able to translate that into something that's listenable, right? I find that fascinating now, listening to people. Yeah, I mean, they need TMZ in front of them in order to create content, right?
Yeah. I find I don't know. I don't even listen to the radio anymore. But when I do listen to the radio, there's nothing impromptu. You know, there's nothing that's spur of the moment taped like that. You know what I mean? Obviously, because you can't talk about two guys banging on the roof of the building next door on the radio anymore. Like you just can't. But you're right. It's this. I was listening to the radio the other day when I was driving home and it was like 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night. Listening to the radio, and the person was on the radio for literally 15 seconds. Like 15 seconds, and then I heard 5 songs, and then 15 more seconds, and I'm like, what a fucking waste
shit for going 15 seconds,
probably. But what a fucking waste! Like, I don't know that there's ever going to be a premium on that kind of entertainment on the radio anymore. I really don't. I'd be surprised if there was, because there's no control, right? You're going to factor in someone's history into the kind of person they are, and I don't know if you guys know this. I have been fired quite publicly once. quite publicly, for doing content that I actually thought was pretty good. And so like the sea change moment that comes with not just this industry, but being able to think back to those times, you know, you'd like to be able to look forward to radio and say, I wonder if that will ever be that way again. And I just don't think it will.
I think it is. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in the business. I honestly think that at some point, people are going to, in order to get people back, they're going to have to find ways to make radio exciting again. If I was starting a radio station right now, I would be on the air between every song going, we have live jocks all day. Listen to us. Mm-hmm. And I would put jocks on all day. I mean, what I can't believe there is still conversations behind the scenes about how to put together a playlist. Like what? Like I still can't believe I overhear conversations of programmers talking about how they've got the right music recipe for a format. Like what? Everybody does. I got 8 billion fucking songs on my phone. Everyone's a music expert. If they want fucking music, they know where to get it. Yeah. Put content on. If you fucking magically fucking mix Bryan Adams into Metallica and you think you're a genius, like what? Yeah. It baffles me that those conversations are still happening in radio. It's amazing to me that somebody hasn't figured out, why don't we just put a whole bunch of fucking live jocks on again? Go 24 hours. Yeah. Let them fucking talk.
Yeah. What's equally as baffling, Lachlan and everyone else, is this putting people on in multiple markets. Jake, you touched on it before. There's no fucking way that people in Winnipeg are the same as people in Vancouver or Toronto. It doesn't make any sense to put these midday hosts on the edge in Toronto and on whatever station it is in Winnipeg, because you're talking to a totally different audience. And I can't imagine what it's like for a morning show, because a morning show, you know, is supposed to be talking about, you know, what's going on in the east side of Vancouver. Meanwhile, they're broadcasting to Calgary and Edmonton as well. How is that relating to your market? I don't get it.
Where's the local vibe? Where's the local vibe you get from your guy or your gal on the radio? That's what's missing. That is what's missing. It's just dead right on. Getting out there with the public, going to the Monday night footballs, partying your ass off on a rockin' river cruise with audience. I used to love being with my listeners. I really did. And you know, we start drinking some beers and smoking joints and having a good time. The next day, you're on the air at fucking 5 a.m. and just smoking, just, you know, full of electricity. And they're there. That has changed. But I wanted to ask you guys this question. With all the things that you did that you can't do today, are you apologizing to anybody for that? Like a lot of people are doing right now, just so, I guess, because they're still working and something comes up in your past that you actually did that. And we'll say, hey, didn't you do that? Well, I'm not going to apologize for it because it was that time. It was like Money for Nothing with the Dire Straits, and they pulled the record off because it had, you know, a faggot with a big jet airplane. You know, Hendrix going down to the river to shoot his old lady because she was fucking around. I mean, it just became, I'd still like to go back to that time, believe me, but I'm not apologizing for it.
Yeah,
I have a weekly session where I have to apologize to my wife, but that's $300 an hour, and that's different. I think you're asking something different, right, Jake?
Yeah. I think what he's asking for
I missed the point of the question. Sorry.
Yeah. Context of our time, right? Like I've actually thought about this a lot because, you know, I'm a thinker. I like thinking about, you know, the way that we are and how woke everybody is, and how woke is protecting big business from allowing people to actually do content on radio signals now. And, you know, listen, I have done a lot of content that is somewhat questionable. I've done a lot of content that pissed people off. I've done a lot of content that was irreverent. It was at times homophobic. It was at times racist. It was and I say this to people all the time, is that you have to understand in the context of the time, not now, but the context of that time. Not only was that okay, people paid us millions of dollars to do that job. Like we were all, if depending on who we are, reimbursed very well and encouraged to do that content. So when someone says to me, hey, and I had this conversation with a radio company not long ago, and they said, what's changed for you? Or do you feel like you want to do that content again? Are you embarrassed by anything you've done? And to what Jake said, the answer is always absolutely fucking not. Because in the context of our time, we're judging what we did, and what we did was not only highly profitable for the people we were doing it for, it was highly profitable for us. And I go back to CBSC complaints, and I've had a couple. I don't know if you guys bring a couple of them.
They're
a couple. But you go back and you read the CBSC complaints, and they all come with a letter from your employer saying, hey, listen, we got to say this guy didn't do what you think he did. It's your employer standing up for you in a paper trail. Like everybody's so angry that you were what you were, or you did what you did, and it's not going to jive today. But in the context of our time, you can't judge that stuff by today's woke standards, Jake. I don't think you can. Jeff, go ahead.
I responded to probably 150 of those complaint letters, and on behalf of people that worked on the radio for me, Q107 in Toronto, Rock 101 in Vancouver, the Fox in Vancouver, and you make a good point. 98% of those complaint letters misquoted what was actually said on the radio, because everybody has broken telephone. You hear something, and then when you regurgitate it onto a letter, it becomes something else. So no offense to the people that can't remember what was said, but your biases direct what you think you said into the letter. So by and large, no one got fired for what they did generally. I will tell you this, though, that I think that people can still be irreverent, people can still be risque, people can still use double entendre, people can be authentic, people can be funny, but we have a charter of rights, which I think is valid and decent, and a thing that we should judge ourselves by in our conversations. We can't be homophobic, we can't be misogynistic, we can't be racist, we can't be an asshole.
You can't negatively just stereotype different groups, like
Hold on.
Yeah.
The asshole thing?
Yeah.
All right, Locker, you could stay with that. But,
okay.
But Locker's one of the best examples around, and I like Drex in Vancouver, and there's Dolby, and there's still lots of people, Derringer, there's still lots of people being irreverent and fun and funny and goofy and not down the middle and not a complete geek and not a yes man. There's still lots of those people left. The thing is, corporate radio allows less of it now, right? Mm-hmm. You got to be really good to be able to do what you want on the radio.
Depends on like what you say, obviously, but there are certain triggers nowadays, right?
Tell me.
And the racism one is definitely is worth touching on. Woods, you got a point there. Like that's shifted. I think Dean was talking about a story, a bit that he used to do all the time about the 405 and how he drove into a community and it was Chinese or something like that. I can't remember the bit exactly, but it's funny, but you couldn't do that anymore.
Oh, I know the story. The story is we have this highway in going right through the city of Toronto, the GTA called the 407. And when I first moved to the city, and listen, not only did nobody say anything about this, I thought it was actually really funny. Now I would never do this joke because of self-preservation. But I remember saying, because Markham is like 65% Asian population, right? Very heavily Asian, and 40% is everything else. And so I said, the most amazing part of moving to the city is that the 407 goes all the way to China, and it was great laughs, great fun. I would never do that joke again because I'm not an idiot, right? Like we don't live in that time anymore. Same thing with a lot of the stuff that we used to talk about. Whether it was, I remember going on a tirade once, 20-minute tirade on the morning show at The Edge about why I was allowed to use the word retard and you shouldn't have a problem with it. 20 minutes. 20 fucking minutes.
Today.
No.
Wouldn't fly.
And I got off the air, and our program director at the time, a guy named Dave, who's a loser, says to me, hey, listen, great break. Made a lot of good points about why you're allowed to use that fucking word. No, it wasn't even don't do it again. I did that break probably for 5 years, at least once a year. Every time I would get an email saying, can you stop using that word? I would think to myself, you don't have the right to be able to tell me what words I can and can't use because you might have someone in your home that has Down syndrome. that was the mentality then. Now, today, I know it's wrong. Do I apologize for those things? No, but I uphold the values that I have, which are very different than they were then, right? And I think your values bleed through, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but the older I've gotten, the more my values and perception have changed, right? So it's, the content that we do now is very, very different than the content I would have done then, because there's some highbrow stuff. We get into some serious conversation. Sure, did I wear a tinfoil hat during a 2-hour podcast yesterday? Absolutely. But this is still show business to me, but I feel extremely different about content than I used to. I feel like, I've got a responsibility, A, to be honest about the shit that I'm talking about, B, be able to relate to people, because that's what I love to do, Jake. Back in the day, you're talking about going on riverboat cruises and smoking healers with your friends and getting drunk and going back in and I had a great time with those guys. I get that part of that business as well, and I love that. I used to love going to see people, but I'm not that guy that I was then. So when we talk about whether or not, we can port what we're doing into this business again, I don't care, because that's not my focus. My focus isn't getting back to being me as I was. My focus is being the best version of me that I am. So it's kind of a philosophical, holistic mind change. I still find the same shit funny. I still enjoy some of the same off-brand weird humor, but at the same time, I feel different about the way that I have to conduct myself on a daily basis when it comes to content. I think that there's more responsibility there, and I take that responsibility far more seriously than I did before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. When you look at, was raised Roman Catholic, and all the stuff that I did was against a lot of Catholic, a lot of shit. I came up with this bit one time at Q107. Don Schaefer was the GM, and it was a confession box. I said, Don, yes, my daughter, please tell me how you have sinned. Well, I was over at Bobby's house last. He's my boyfriend, and I was with his best friend, and he had to go get some beer, so Bobby's best friend stayed, and we got it on, and tell me more. And he came back, and we acted all innocent, and I just wanted to confess. And I said, well, man, it's Lash Wednesday. Not Ash Wednesday, it's Lash Wednesday. So programmed a few lash sounds, and at 7:45, Schaefer's head popped in and said, "Get in the fucking office now!" And I left the show, and I said, it's all done tongue in cheek. There was real lashing going on, but I thought it really painted a cool picture. I mean, how many times have you been over at your girlfriend's and, on one of her girlfriends show up and you get it on. You're 20, 25, 30 years old. And
you live a very different life than I'd have, Jake.
That still flies today with me. I'll listen to that show today.
You know what, though? If we're talking about religions and stuff, a quick story for you from when I worked at The Edge in Toronto. Yeah. I remember doing a break. I played some Foo Fighters, and Foo Fighters were playing at the Arrow Hall in Mississauga up by the airport there. And it also happened to be Yom Kippur that night. And I said on the air, well, once Yom Kippur is over, everybody head on down to the Foo Fighters show. I went down for a cigarette, and waiting for me was one of the leaders of the Jewish Youth League of Toronto, who was just fucking ragging me out for telling people to skip Yom Kippur and go see Foo Fighters. I'm like, fuck. It was a joke, man. You know what I mean?
I didn't know what that was.
You can
skip Yom Kippur. High holy day for the Jewish faith? No.
I just learned to say it.
Did you tell him you were circumcised?
He knew.
Just show him the proof.
Yeah, that's a get out of jail free card with everything you say against the Jewish Orthodox faith. Just show them your pecker. If you're circumcised, you're good to go.
What my point is that, even back then, I mean, this is 20 years ago, you had to watch what you said. I mean, you get called on the strangest things. Like you thought you were going to get in shit for this, but you end up getting in shit for that.
Oh, that happens all the time to us.
Yeah.
We get hauled into the office and I'm like, oh no, that joke we did about the Grace Life Church, we're in shit. And then it was like Grant talking about having Bell's palsy and looking like Jean Chrétien at 16. I'm like, what? Like that? Yeah.
You can't see it coming.
Nope.
Right?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. And we're always baffled. Always baffled by that. Well, sometimes not, but
yeah.
A lot of times you're surprised at when, and I find this, and I don't know if you guys have had a similar experience. We'll go weeks with nothing, no complaints, and we'll do horrible shit. We'll say horrible things on the radio. And then there'll be one day and we'll get like 4 fucking complaints from 4 different people. It's weird. It's like the fucking moons line up or something. It's bizarre. And then all of a sudden you're dealing with, and it wasn't even your worst day. And you'll say to the boss, well, I'm glad they weren't listening yesterday because we had a go at the Catholic Church, right? Like you can never, I think there's, I don't know. I don't want to get too hippie here, but I think moons or something or moods or like it does work out that way sometimes for us.
Do you get everybody here's been fired? Everybody here? Everybody here been fired? Somebody hands up if you've been fired.
Let go.
Let go.
Let go.
We'll get into it. Everybody here has been let go or fired out of this business. What is your favorite I got fired story, Jake?
Oh, geez. No, I can't tell you that one, but I can tell you.
Dude, that's why we're doing this, so you can tell us.
Well, I can tell you this. Okay, well, all right. Early in my career, I went to work at CKC in New Glasgow, and I was coming on down from Bathurst and Chatham and doing all these small towns. And I got into an afternoon drive, and the guy that owned the station, let's call him Dougie, was gay. And he said, about 3 weeks? And, we used to always wear the tight clothing and walk around. Like you were just long hair. And he said, do you want to come over to my place at night? And I said, well, why do I want to go over to your place? And he basically slapped me on the ass and said, you should be there tonight. And I went, and then I started to figure out this guy wanted to have me in his house. And I said, no, I'm not going. I'm not that way. I'm not going over there. And the next day I was fired. And his nephew came in and replaced me right there.
Because you wouldn't have gay sex with your boss? What's that? Because you wouldn't have sex with your boss?
That's correct.
And that's your favorite one, Jake?
Well, it's not my favorite one. It was the
second favorite.
That was my shocking one.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one. Okay, I'll do this one here. We had the water ski championships in Winnipeg, and I decided to get my all-night guy to be pulled around. I had a 396 fully blown jet boat back then, and I thought it'd be really cool to have 92 feet of rope slack and then hit the 396 and have the all-night guy come right off the bank in front of thousands of people. So we put on these rope ends from a mop. We had the exploding blood caps and everything, and the fake hands were popped onto the ski bar. So, ladies and gentlemen, the 396, revving up. Jake, are you ready? Thumbs up, Wayne. And he put this one hand that he had to put up because the other ones were there. Yep. The thing rolls off, pulls the arms out of the white coat we had on, and flipped all over the water. We're doing bat turns. The arms are off. A couple people fainted on the dock, and one hit her head, and there was a bit of a problem there. And so that was the time that I was asked to leave.
Was that City? Were you on City in Winnipeg, Jake?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you went. Did you go over to Power after you were on City?
No, I went back.
Okay.
There's footage out there.
No, I went to
Jake.
Halifax. Sorry, I went from there to Halifax. Sorry,
Jake. There's footage of you in Winnipeg from the 1970s that you can find on YouTube. The CBC did a special with you or something. Do you remember that?
Disco Destruction Night. Was that it?
No, it was just you in the studio. It was talking about Morning Guys.
Oh yeah. Okay, I did see that. Yeah, CBC.
That I always watch that because it proves to me that at one point Brother Jake was young.
Yes, very young. Very young.
Billy, you've been fired too. Tell me about your favorite.
Well, I was let go once.
It's called fired. It's called getting fired.
Yeah. Because they had enough of me, I guess. It was funny though, because a few people had been let go with Jake got let go, and then that was kind of the start of they just kind of selectively started picking people off. I think Jake, actually, they just didn't renew your contract. But anyway, one day I came walking in, and Dean, your friend Ronnie Stanton,
Great guy.
My friend too.
Yeah, just friend too, right? We don't need people talking about music on the radio.
If radio had a bowel movement, it would be named Ron Stanton.
Well, you know what? Everybody's got an opinion. I'm not as hateful as you guys are, but anyway,
I'll go with that. I like that.
Are you still trying to get a gig?
Yeah, can you tell?
You sucking ass, eh, Billy?
Yeah, I'm good at it.
Ronnie. Everybody who's giving out jobs is actually really cool.
Play to your strengths, guys. Play to your strengths.
Right.
Anyway, so I
got a tongue and a few butts too.
I get called into his office, and I sat down, and it was him and Dustin Collins, who's the PD at the Peak now, who I also say nice things about because I applied for that job too. But anyway, so I get called in. I sit down, I look at both of them, and I say, "Well, there's nobody from HR here. That means I'm not getting fired." And the room got very quiet. And 5 minutes later, I was getting walked out of the building with my manila envelope. So that was my moment.
Jeff?
Well, you just brought up that interesting Australian. The reason I got fired wasn't so much what I did or said on the radio. It was that finally an accountant, a bean counter, looked at the ledger and said, "Holy shit, we got to get rid of that guy. What's he doing again?" And it was my own doing, really, because back in 2005, I said, "Can I go home? I want to work from home. I can probably give you better shows and not use your office and not use your telephone. I'm just going to go home and do radio for you." So I was doing shows all over the country for Chorus, including my nationally syndicated show. And they were paying me. And then I did a local show in Calgary, but then I went back to my home office and they kept paying me until one day they noticed, how much are we paying this son of a bitch? So then I get a phone call. I didn't know all that, by the way, that they were counting the dollars that stringently. I get a phone call from Ronnie Stanton, and he goes, "Hey, let's get together." And I said, "Okay." He said, "How about Monday?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually on a trip to Mexico Monday, but I'm back in a week." He said, "Oh, it's not good for me. Another time." He goes, "But I want to talk to you because about your show." I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Because nobody cares about music history, and you talk about music history." So that was our first, chinwag on the phone, and then I didn't hear from him for several months, a year maybe passed, and then he emailed me and said, "Hey, I'm back in town, Toronto. Do you want to get together?" And I said, "Sure. When?" He said, "How about Tuesday at 9 a.m.?" And I know you can't get fired on a Monday or a Friday. That's against corporate policy because you might, go home and kill yourself. Right. Monday's bad enough. And Friday,
is that why they always fire people midweek? Is there a phrase of suicide?
Yeah. Like Mondays are tough, and Fridays aren't good because if you live alone, you go home on a Friday afternoon, you're alone all weekend, you might off yourself. It's a legitimate concern. So I think that's a good idea.
Thursday for me still sucked.
Yeah, well, yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, they all suck, really, don't they?
Jeff, it took them that long to fire you?
A whole year.
Imagine if you hadn't have gone to Mexico.
Well, yeah, I guess. But
here's
what happened. I said, "Well, I'm filling in for Kim Mitchell in the afternoon at 2. Want to meet at 1 o'clock?" And he said, "Okay, perfect." So when I got off when I walked away from my email, I thought, what can I do now to sort of qualify or to assess what's really going on here? So I wrote back and I said, "Hey, what are we going to talk about so I can prepare?" And he said this. He said, "Oh man, I just really want to meet you." So I thought either he's a liar or he just really wants to meet me. So I show up at chorus at 1 o'clock, an hour before my show. And I said to the receptionist, do you know where Hemlock 3C is? It was a boardroom, right? Because nobody has an office anymore. It's always cubicles and boardrooms. And so she goes, oh, yeah, look. She showed me a map. And I went up the elevator, the third floor. And I got off the elevator. And I heard the head of HR, Larry, great guy, by the way. Mm-hmm. And he said something about going to Hemlock 3. So I knew, right? Mm-hmm. He was going there too. Yeah. I said, hey, Larry, I know where it is. I can show you where it is. I guess he hadn't fired anybody in that room before, but I checked the map and everything. So Larry and I get in the room and I said, where is he? And he said, who? I said, the Australian, because it's his meeting and now it's our meeting. He said, he's on his way. I said, well, he's not coming in here. He said, what do you mean? I said, this fucking guy he lied. You know, he did it wrong. He's not going to meet me for the first time to fire me. Couldn't he just get you to do it? I said, if you need a witness, somebody else in the company, bring a witness in. That fucker's not coming in here because he will not survive the meeting.
I love this.
Larry said, you know what, Jeff, we've worked together for a long time. I respect that. I'll go out and tell him to go away. And he did. He didn't say go away. I'll go out and take care of it, is what he said, to quote him. So Larry came back in the room alone, and he said, I said, aren't you going to get a witness? And he said, no, man, let's just do this. We're reasonable men. I said, we absolutely are. He packaged me out, and, I went to my lawyer.
You just burned 10% of my battery. I just looked at it right now. I've got 5% left. It's now. What a great story. Does that come in interesting?
Hey, but you know what? That's you son of a bitch. But that's the nature of corporations.
What?
Lying, and misrepresentation.
I'm serious. I'm fading right now.
Jake, before
tell us about porn stars.
Jake, before we lose you, though. Jake, before we lose you, tell the story about Boston. Wasn't there a story about Boston, LSD, and losing your eye?
Look at the time.
We were in Vegas once.
Yeah,
Jake, we were in Vegas once, and you told me a story about running through the fucking forest in Boston or something.
I was running through the forest. I was on LSD. That's correct. And I was with a bunch of mountain men. So one of the guys who went to theater school said, you got to come up on going up in Maine, up in them fucking woods up there. We're going to do some LSD. And we're going to have some fun. And Wanda's bringing the train transformers. She'll hook them up. They got little things to your legs. And while you're fucking, they turn the thing up. It's one of them electric train motors. And they turn the amperage up. And that's what we do for fun. So it's going to be a great weekend. And that was not a good weekend. That was a scary weekend. I did make it back. I had fucking scar marks on my ankles. It was a really bad trip. And yes, I was blind in one eye at the time. I don't know how that fucking got in there, but no idea.
Yeah. Dude, well, is your phone really dying? Because we can let you go.
Yeah, no, it's
all right.
It's just about dead here.
All right, go golf.
It out until it just disappears if you want.
That's sure. Billy, your best story of getting fired. Might as well fucking finish off the roll, right?
Well, I told you my story, Dean. Have you started early or something? What's going on?
Yeah.
Based on Jake's response to Jeff's, I'm not telling mine.
Your story, getting to the end of the roll. Your story, you're kind of still involved in one of your firings too. So it's like you're still fucking living it.
Me.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I my last job, the people asked me to leave because of COVID, quote unquote. It's taken a year and a bit and Service Canada complaints and phone calls to get my little bit of money that they owe me for severance. So that's been a joke, and that's the company that I worked for. I don't even want to mention them because they're just assholes. Small company owned by a family here in the Vancouver area, Surrey-based radio station. Let me just say, anybody who's listening right now, you'd be a fucking idiot to work for those people. That's for sure. And I've never had to say bad things about people in this business ever, really.
Right.
You know, there's been so many people that have been, you know, not so nice sometimes, but for the most fucking part, this has been a great run.
Mm-hmm.
But this last people that I work for were such fucking dicks that just I don't really know if I need to go back into radio, to tell you the truth. I apply here and there, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can find something else to do.
Oh, for sure you can. Not a lot of people think they can, though. That's kind of where we are, right? Like, not a lot of people think that they are going to have an opportunity to get back into the industry. Not many people that were in the industry now have this. Like, I'm like you. I don't give a fuck anymore, you know. And
Right.
that used to be it. And for someone like me who's a radiophile to not give a fuck anymore about radio,
Right.
that's something, right?
That's
Because it's not just about not being able to do the job. It's about the anxiety associated with that job. I don't know anybody that's on the radio save Locke, and Locke, you might be different, but like the anxiety of wondering, and you mentioned this earlier, what did I say? What did I do? Going into an office, wondering if you're going to get fucking pumped today, if it's a financial reason or if it's a content related reason. Like, that's something I just wouldn't, I never want to deal with. Like, I never want to go through trying to get a few $1,000s from someone in severance who sent me home because of COVID and just never had me come back. That's the kind of industry that we're talking about here, Locke.
Well, I think the biggest issue we have right now is we have good people that are being forced to do horrible things
Agreed.
in the name
Absolutely.
of. I think there's still a lot of really good people in the industry, and I think that unfortunately, with the consolidation, I mean, does anybody know a program director that's not running 4 fucking radio stations? I mean, it's crazy.
Or doesn't
right?
have a gout or a drinking issue.
Well, we've done that dance here on this podcast before, right? But yeah, it's unfortunate. You know what I've done, and I don't know what it is about my personality that allows me to do this, but I've sort of put blinders on, and I concentrate on trying to create a good product every day, and I try my damnedest not to worry about. But I'm also working for a company, like it's a smaller company. They're not heavily involved in my day-to-day, and they kind of let me do what I'm doing because we bring in decent numbers. So I think I'm lucky that way. Like
yeah,
Harvard,
you are. Lachlan, you are, because the company I worked for was a family-run business. The owner swore that his wife knew everything about radio, despite the fact that she hadn't been in radio ever. They micromanaged, and they were assholes. And you're lucky that you have a company that has trust in you enough, sees the numbers, and says, "Okay, let him do what he's doing. It seems to be working." Jake, I'm wondering when did you see this shit start to go down? Because I remember when you didn't get your contract renewed at Rock 101, and you were pretty pissed off by that.
Yeah, I was really pissed. And over to TSN to do sports. I mean, going from classic rock to sports was an eye-opener, but I worked hard, and I enjoyed it.
You're a good
I really
broadcaster,
did.
though.
You know what?
I
had enough. Go ahead.
Can I actually thank Jake for something quickly? I remember years ago, I was in Vancouver, and I was just flipping around the dial, and I heard him doing a show on the weekends, and I'm like, what the fuck is brother Jake doing on weekends? And I was listening, and I spent the afternoon hanging out, and I remember thinking, you know what? He's doing a morning show, and it's like Saturday afternoon. I think you were like on from 9 till like 2 o'clock or something, and you were doing a fucking morning show. And I remember that really hit home with me. I was in programming at first, and then worked my way back into on air after I realized that I don't have the personality to be a manager. So I got back on the air, and then started doing that full time here in Edmonton. And I remember going into the boss, and it was because of you. Oh, he put me on Afternoon Drive, and I said, by the way, I'm going to be doing a morning show on Afternoon Drive.
Right.
And he kind of looked at me and went, yeah, okay. And that's what we fucking did.
Yeah,
we came off the shit end of every fucking song, and we had calls on, and I did a fucking morning show, and I just said, fuck it, I'm doing a morning show. And it doesn't matter what time slot you're on. Yep.
Good
Jake,
stuff.
what
All right.
I was going to say, what I think that people don't know either is there was a period of time when Brother Jake wasn't working, and tell me if I'm wrong in this story, but this is what I've heard.
You gonna bring up his eye again?
No.
Okay, good.
No. So, Jake, there was a period
PCP?
of time out here in Vancouver when you weren't working.
Cocaine in Chicago.
And next episode, you approached, I believe it was Rock 101, with a key sponsor in your pocket.
Yeah.
And said, "Give me a show." Is that true?
Molson. That was the weekend thing.
It was Molson. Yeah, it was the weekend thing. So it was Molson gave me $100,000 to go to whatever station I wanted. So it was the Fox and it was Rock 101. So I went over and talked to, who's the guy with the wig? Who's the guy that was the fucking thing that the thing died on his head? What's his name? He's in the
Stu Myers.
Stu
Myers.
No,
there's a bunch of guys with wigs.
Yeah,
No,
dude,
there is
that's
one.
like one of 500 program directors that have hair pieces in this country.
Mills had a wig.
So anyway, I couldn't stop looking at this fucking rat he had on his head, and I'm trying. I've got $100,000 here, but I'm willing to give you 15 of it so you can get a decent fucking hairpiece. Like, fuck, I'll take 70. Anyway, so they
got
said no.
2 for 1 that day,
Jake. They said this town doesn't need a Brother Jake. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to Rock 101. Rock 101. Ross Winters said, bring it, and that's what happened. That's how it started.
I think that was Ross's real hair.
And Ross had good hair.
Yeah, he still does.
I mean,
he had a good flow.
And remember, there was a lot of shenanigans going over at Fox because that certain person was dating a morning man's girlfriend who was the receptionist there. I think she was 19 at the time, 19 or 20. And I remember doing the BCAB awards. I was hosting it. And I said, I'd like to say hi to that guy with
Gone.
Of course.
That
It
guy
died.
with that wig
Fucking
and
consummate pro
Yeah, what is it with program directors and wigs?
dies on
what-
the fucking tees. Look at that, eh?
I know. I would love to have him back. We'll have him back again. But what is it with program directors and wigs, fellas? Like me, I know not everybody can be blessed with hair like we're all blessed with. Locke just shaves his.
Dean,
That's not blessed.
I came real close one night. Stu and I were out we got shit faced. I think we're at the Upper Brass, and Stu's sitting beside me, and my hand is reaching up to pull it, but I'm fucking holding myself back, realizing that Monday I got to go to work, and I'm trying to fucking see if it'll move. And exactly, Lachlan. And I just held myself back enough that I didn't touch it, but I was going to.
Yeah, you know, if you partied hard enough with him too, it would shift. Yeah,
Totally.
it would shift.
Total.
Okay,
Good man,
Woodsy,
though.
you know
Good
that.
boss, for the
Yeah.
record.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
he and I
Real programmer.
were involved
Yeah.
in a big elevator fight, and his hair,
Oh.
it stayed on perfectly.
You guys
That
got in a
was
fist
good.
fight on the elevator?
Not
Jeff,
he and I
tell the
together.
Tell the
Nope.
story.
Jake's not here to admonish my story, so I'll tell you briefly. It
That's
was
good.
It was one of those Canadian music weeks, a Thursday
great.
night, the big awards
Wasted.
dinner. We had a few drinks, so the dinner's over. It's probably 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening. We're all going to go back to our respective rooms and maybe have a shot, maybe have a healer, as Jake would put it, and then regroup downstairs and go to the bar, as everyone did. And on the way up, was it on the way up or the way back? Anyway, a bunch of us in the elevator. I think there were 11 of us in the elevator. Sales guys, girlfriends, wives, sales women, myself, my then wife, and Stu Myers. And one of the girls in the there were two strangers in the elevator. Get this. There was a Sabres game that night. I think the Sabres got destroyed. And these two barrel-chested, big-necked Sabres fans were kind of in the back of the elevator, wasted. And they started making crazy noises and barking. And one of the girls that worked for Chorus started making fun of them. And one of them called her a CUNT. And instead of just letting it go, one of the sales guys, not from Chorus, one of the other guys from Montreal, said, "Oh, you cannot talk to a woman that way. You don't disrespect the woman." And that was the stupidest thing he could have done, because the two meatheads kicked the living out of him. Like they broke his leg.
I remember this.
They made his face look like hamburger, like raw hamburger, like bloody raw hamburger. He was getting killed. And the rest of us were just trying to protect the women, right? Because that's what you do.
Or something like that. The rest, because if it was me, I'd be like, the rest of us just kind of tried to get as far away from this guy who was getting his ass kicked as possible.
Most of the sales guys were just with their drink in the corner trying to stay out of the way. But Stu and I, like, I mean, you have to protect your people, your family, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever. So Stu and I were blocking. I wasn't throwing any punches because that's not smart, but to defend is the goal. Mm-hmm. So eventually the elevator stopped and people poured out. But meanwhile, these two and Stu and I were in it. Stu's glasses were broken off his face. I had no shirt left on. They ripped my shirt right off.
Of course they did.
Hey, listen, Woodsy, I got to tell you something about your shirts. They were barely on to begin with.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not like it was a fucking
I don't know
pass.
what that means. It was a long sleeve black shirt.
Hulkamania.
So there's that. But so those guys got taken away in the paddy wagon and then thrown in jail. And we went and had a party.
But hey, let's say one thing though. I think we all know Stuart Myers, Lachlan.
He's the best.
I think who he is.
I love Stu.
If you're getting the shit kicked out of you in an elevator, I don't think there's anybody I'd want to be in an elevator with other than Stuart Myers, because that fucker's tough.
He was a fighter in hockey too. I don't know if you guys know this, but good Sasky boy.
Oh yeah,
and, not the biggest guy, but I know that he was not adverse to stepping in when he had skates on. So I know how that thing would have been approached from Stu.
His favorite thing is to hunt and drink, which it tells me all I need to know about the guy, right? Like not the guy I want to fight, but also every experience I had with Stu Myers, every single experience was fucking positive. Yeah, everything.
He was the sharpest guy in the room.
Absolutely.
He's a regular guy, and he drank domestic beer, but his brain was very large. And you know what he called that fight after the fact? Because the next day, everybody's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that thing happened. Tell us more about that thing." And the sales guys were like, "Oh, we took care of it." And Stu said it was just a little misunderstanding.
I can guarantee the sales guys didn't do jack shit, by the way. If you know anything about radio sales guys, the only people lazier than on-air people are radio sales people.
And also richer.
There wasn't one drop of their drinks spilled. Meanwhile, we're like destroyed.
In it. Yeah.
So we should.
You're in trouble when you're fighting a guy who's still holding his fucking rum and coke.
I used to say to one of our sales guys, this guy named Chris. I used to say to him all the time, "You are one bad sleep away from being committed to a group home, dude. Get it together."
Chris VA, are we talking about?
Yeah, Van Allen. Yeah, that's him all the time.
Where is he these days?
Who cares?
Still there.
I don't know.
We had a salesperson who isn't with us anymore, and I won't mention any names, but we would go to remotes,
Phil,
and
Eric.
She would come to the remotes and say hi and hang out, right? Which is rare, which was kind of cool. But her car was a gong show. Like it was just, and she'd have her like Toyota Corolla parked right in front of the remote, and she would zip back to the car and sit and drink.
Wow.
Well, get just shittered while we were on remote.
When you say not with us anymore, do you mean like she
No. She's I hope she's not passed on, but she was fired not long ago. Yeah.
Dude, we had this sales guy at a radio station I worked at in Windsor who got fired. Got fired because he just never showed up for work, right? One of the things about work is you probably got to show up. So when he got fired, and I remember talking to our old general manager, his name's Eric, and he's like, "Yeah, I had to fire John." I'm like, "Oh yeah, what was for you guys? Drinking problem, tried to help him, didn't want help, and didn't show up for work, that kind of stuff." I'm like, "Oh, that's a shame." So I'm in his office. This is the next day. As I leave the office, who walks by? This guy, John. He's like, "Hey, Dean." I'm like, "Fuck, I thought you just got fired." I could have sworn that guy just got fired. I mean, I just came out of a meeting with a guy that fired you, so I'm pretty sure you're fired. And then Eric is behind me. He's like, "John, what are you doing here?" He goes, "Just going to work." Walks into the sales pit, sits down. I look at Eric and I'm like, "Can I watch this?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So I follow him into the sales pit. He's like, John, can I talk to you? He goes, I fired you yesterday. And I'm like 5 feet away watching this because I'm like, I've never seen this before. Some guy who's like completely detached from reality got fired, and he shows up for work the next day like nothing happened.
Yeah, he's pulling George Costanza.
Hey, fellas, how you doing? Yeah, total George Costanza. No, I'm still working here. So Eric goes, hey, listen, I fired you yesterday. He goes, yeah, about that, I'm going to keep coming into work.
Right.
And I'm like, this is going to get fucking awesome in a second here. And Prashi, this guy's like, no, dude, fired means you got to go, right? And he's like, yeah, but if my wife finds out, she's going to fucking kill me. So I'll just keep coming in. How's that sound?
Is that okay?
Is that okay? He's like, no, I don't think it is okay. He says to him. And Eric looks at me and I go, pretty sure that's not okay, but I'm just a morning guy. So what do you know? I have fucking no idea. So he goes, listen, let's walk him out to his car. Can you come with me? Because I'm afraid this guy's going to do something stupid. So we walk this guy to his car. He's like, you sure I can't just stick around for a few extra months? She's like, no, you can't. So he opens up the back of his car into the trunk and he goes to put his briefcase in, but he can't because it's full of fucking empties, like fucking packed full of empties. And he looks at me and he goes, deposits. They're worth a lot. I go and pick them up. I'm like, fuck, it's the same brand of beer. Like, you just find the one thing a Lucky Strike everywhere you go. It's all Lucky. He's like, well, it's someone from my house too. And I'm like, dude, you should probably get it together. No word of a lie. He leaves. I go into work the next day. I walk out of the studio and I'm done my show. Who comes strolling into work again? This guy. He's like, hey, Dean. I'm like, holy fuck, this is unbelievable.
How long did this go on for?
Just that day, and then they got a cease and desist or a ban order for.
The thing is, though, like you can't even make this shit up. It's radio. It doesn't happen in any other industry. It just doesn't. It's fantastic.
You know what? Yeah, I agree and I disagree, Lachlan, because my buddy's now wife worked for WestJet as a flight attendant for years. Fuck, I'll tell you, man, I've sat down with her and some of her girlfriends over some wine, and the stories that they tell about working in for WestJet and the flight attendant business fucking is right up there with radio, man, as far as like the stories go.
Drinkers, yeah.
They're insane. They're just insane stories.
Mm-hmm. Layovers, sex and more.
Absolutely. Sex. Jeff, it goes back to your side project there.
You know, there's a limited time a free trial on right now. I just went and looked. I put a free trial on and forgot about it. I should tell you this until, 2 more days. Jeff Wood's Bedtime Stories on OnlyFans the next 2 days. Go and try for free. Have a listen to the 4 or 5 stories that are there. If you don't come, your money back. Well, it was free. No money.
No, OnlyFans, Bedtime Stories with Jeff Woods. Go and check it out. You can go to the YouTube page as well. Jeff Woods
Unbelievable.
Radio. And have a look there for yourself. You can follow him on Twitter too, at Jeff Woods Radio on Twitter.
Thank you. You're right.
You know what I heard? I heard that they took radio out of radio.com the other day because the word has such negative connotations attached to it.
What?
Did you know that? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Fucking funny, huh?
Well, what do they call it now? .com?
Shit. .com.
By the way,
I still love it. I you know what? I get up in the morning every morning. My alarm clock goes up at 3:45. I'm on the edge of my bed.
Yep.
And I'm excited to go into work every day. And I have for years. I'm very lucky. I don't have 6 fired stories. I got fired from a job I shouldn't have been doing in radio, which was managing people. And I love it. And it's sad because I'm watching it slip around me, and it's sad because I'm hearing people like the other brother right beside me here going, I don't think I'm ever going to get back into it. So we're losing good people, and it's destroying people's creative energy and morale. And
I still love it too, though, Lachlan. That's why I keep applying, man, because I still think I got something for people if they want to hear me out. But it's not up to me, right? It's like, my girlfriend is an actress, or was an actress, and she says, it doesn't matter what you look like if they're not looking like she's 5'8" and blonde. If she says if they're looking for a 4'2" Spanish girl, they're not going to hire me. I'm not getting that role. So I kind of look at it that way. Like, hey, brother Bill, Neil Morrison does a specific kind of show, and it's not going to be for everyone. So if they don't hire me, I don't take it personally. And on the other hand of things, I mean, Jeff, you were so kind to reach out to me God, 20 years ago and say there might be an opportunity for you in Vancouver. Would you be interested? Which is which is a great feeling. And I thank you to this day for that.
Well, listen, you were a pro. You sounded great in the radio. I wanted to have you there, so I flew you in, and you did a great job.
Well, tell fucking somebody out here to hire me then, will you, man? I
gotta go.
lost it.
They're like,
Get
you
away
work
from-
for the woods.
get away
the
from
hell away
Vancouver.
from me.
Yeah. Get away. Get out of Vancouver.
I still like doing a radio show, fellas. I only do an hour a week. I pick my own music. 7 or 8 stations run it. I'm thrilled to be on the air, but I do a music show. I'm not controversial. I talk about music. I celebrate artists. I tell stories.
And you do it very well.
Yeah,
Well,
one of the best. One of the
I
best.
talked about my balls this morning 3 times.
I miss that.
But that's what they want, man. That's Edmonton. Look at the background. You're behind you there, man. You look you're Alberta, brother.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? It's funny because I occasionally I get a little bit upset about where I'm at. Just from a demographic perspective, like in the not demographic, but geographic perspective, because I started in Edson, I went to Fort Mac, and then I went to Prince George, then I went to Winnipeg, and then I came to Edmonton, and I've been here since 2016. And I had my wife at one point when I was complaining about the weather. I'm like, fuck, I've been doing this now. How many years have I got in radio? In 1994. You think at some point in my career I would work in a fucking Kelowna or something where it's not minus fucking 30 for 3 months of the year? And she goes, I don't think you're a sunny disposition, John.
She's probably right.
Yeah, and you got a gig, right? Like that's the thing. You're working, and
I'm lucky. I'm very lucky.
And it is, and I agree with you guys. Radio can still be that magic medium that it was, but I mean, you got to have a million other tools in your toolbox now. You know what I mean?
The life out of you too.
But also, Dean, the point you got to drive home as well is you got to let the fucking morning shows talk. You got to let them fucking talk, not fucking 60 seconds. But if they got a point, they're running on a bit, go. Let them go. Don't fucking shut them up. And that's what's happening now.
Yeah, I remember and I'll say this to end the show, if that's okay. But I remember when I was at the Edge, it was probably a couple of years before I left. And I think they got so tired of telling me what I was doing wrong. It's like exhausted. Oh, fuck. Like, Jeff, you probably talked to people that like some of my bosses. I'm sure they said to you, he's a lot of work. That guy's a lot of fucking work.
Those are
that's
the
what
only
a morning
ones.
show is supposed to be, though.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be a lot of work.
I remember, at one point, it was probably 2011, 2012, and Ross says to me, our program director at the time, who I really like, he was a great program director, one of the best.
Yeah, he's good.
He said to me, okay, so new rule. And I'm like, here we go. New rule. What's the new rule, fella? He goes, I don't care what you do. Just do not play any of the commercials past 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I don't care how long the breaks are. I don't care what songs you play. You can play fucking Dolly Parton into Jay-Z if you want. Just get all the commercials in before 10 o'clock in the morning. And to me, that was like someone took all the shackles off and said, now go get them. 2 years later, I was fired. However, I will say this is that allowed me the fucking freedom to be able to do what I needed to do to be successful, right? And by and large, other program directors, they gave up trying to control me too. So I was given that opportunity to do it. But I'm telling you, the freedom to be able to create in that space, and it's not, Billy, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get what it was before. You're not going to have radio people. Locke might be one of the very few in this entire country doing the kind of content. And I'm not talking about, balls and tits and ass and being able to say shit or piss or dick or whatever.
It's not.
I'm talking about real conversation.
Stoned yesterday.
Yeah, that's a
all
real
about
life
my balls.
application.
We got a midget stoned.
Yeah, but the midget works with him, and he's a little person, and we try not to use the word midget on this podcast, but that's okay.
Correct.
I don't.
Yeah. So I don't know if it happens, but it would sure be fucking nice. It would be really nice if someone said, hey, listen, we want to reinvigorate this industry with people that actually know how to do the job, but also come with some other tools, right? Like if I'm telling anybody right now at the end of this podcast that wants to be in radio, what you have to do is you have to do no radio. You have to do none. You have to be able to communicate, have a conversation. You have to be able to do a long form, and you got to know what you're doing online.
The
You have
best
to.
compliment I've ever gotten is it doesn't sound like a radio show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. It should
That's good.
sound like this. It should sound like this only, in segments and all the fucking formatic shit that you got to do in that business. But I would encourage people. I would encourage everybody. Listen, I don't think the business is dead. I really don't. I think
You say it all the time.
I know, but I say it for effect. So relax. So I think it's dying, and I think it's on life support. But I think it is so flexible yet one dimensional. But still, I mean, it's instant. There's magic there. It's live. It's right there. There's a reason why we do these shows live and we don't record anything, because I don't like doing that. Right? I don't like fucking recording something and then shaping it and fucking making it what it is. You either can do this or you can't. You're either successful in it or you're not. And to me, when you're on the radio and you're doing what the essence of that job is, there's not just magic there. It's almost like there's a fucking fourth voice in the room. And to use the word angelic is a shitty thing to do, but I said this to Locke the other day. Sometimes when you do great content, everybody's having a laugh, everybody's enjoying themselves, and it's so fucking different, genuine, and real, and it's in real time. It takes it from here and puts it up there. Right? Something that you go, fuck, I couldn't believe that happened today. I can't believe I was involved in that today. We're just starting to kind of try to discover it, but it comes with a fucking million other things. It comes with being able to know all your platforms, algorithms, best times to be able to put shit out, standard operating procedures, right? So there's a shift, and people need to get with that shift too. Jeff, sorry.
Our five supporters are really happy about it. I'd like to point them out. Mrs. McGillicuddy, McGillicuddy, Slosh McGee, Naked Cheese Whiz says Millsy didn't have a wig, he just liked having a mullet. And Stone 1A says Locker gets his free beer deliveries. That's why he keeps doing it.
Oh, Stone, Positive Mike. That's his Twitter account. He dropped off beer this morning. Hey, I got to tell a quick story about program directors. So
you don't know we've been on this for like 2 hours, right?
I know, but Dean, let me just tell you, it'll be great. Right. It'll be funny, and then we can get out. So you talked about how you they had a hard time with you. So I had one program director, and I told all program directors I don't like listening to tape. I don't want to sit in a room and go over break that I already know.
What's that? Air checks? Air checks.
Yes,
that's what they're called. If anybody has ever not been in the radio industry, you used to have to sit down with your boss every day after your show and do something called an air check, which you would literally go through a scoped version of your show with no music. Scope meaning all just the fucking spoken words. And you would sit and he would critique lingo, language, pacing, timing, all kinds of dumb shit that doesn't matter. Anyway, so
I would rather spend an afternoon trying to remove my own nut than sit and listen to my own fucking show with a program director. So I had a guy, and he was adamant that he was going to convince me that it was a good idea that we did this on a fairly regular basis. Mm-hmm. So I told him, I said, if you're going to do this, I'm going to fucking start doing yoga in your room. It's the only way I'm going to be able to cope. So, and he would start playing tape, and I would start taking my pants off, and I would sit there and fucking get into downward dog in his fucking office every time he loaded tape. And he tried. He kept, like, every couple of weeks, he'd be like, I got tape. I just want to play. And I would be like, I'd stand up and I'd start taking my pants off. And I'd get right down, and I don't have good fucking underwear either. We're talking Costco split toes, right? There's a chance of balls coming out. And I would get down into a pose right away. And he would just lose his mind. He'd be like, just it's 30 seconds in. I just got a point.
Didn't matter. Yeah. Fuck, remember air checks? Remember management by objective? Remember
I had to do air checks with people because I was a programmer. I never played their tape when they were in the office.
Oh, thank you,
Jeff. I made notes and said, hey, the other day when you did this thing, that was really cool. You should do more of those things.
Yeah, you never air checked me, Jeff. You
right?
never did.
You can do it without playing the tape. That's such an uncomfortable position to put someone in. It's bullshit.
Okay, so
I know I went too long.
Last story.
You got
my favorite air check story. Okay,
please. Here we go.
So the year is 1994 or maybe 95. And I'm in Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada. And I'm working at a country station called CJOK, which we just aptly titled C-Joke. Yeah. And I'm doing mornings. And I was in radio for 6 months at the time, doing mornings. Still no idea what I was doing. So I would have these air checks. I'm like, oh, professional development. This is great. And I went and sat down with my then boss. His name was Larry Cozy. And he turns on the tape and he's like, press play. And I'm sitting there, 22 or 3 or whatever it was. Okay, what are we doing? And He stops the tape and he goes, listen, what you said there was a word that I don't like. You said presentation. It's presentation. You said the oil patch news was a presentation of Syncrude. It's presentation, not presentation. Do you understand that? I'm like, gotcha. Hits play on the tape again. There's another bumper for Syncrude, a presentation of Syncrude. He stops the tape. He goes, what did I just tell you? What did I just tell you? I go, no. What, are you serious right now? He's like, yeah, I just finished telling you to not do that, and you did it again.
I literally have like
Cocaine.
anxiety.
Cocaine.
And in my head, I'm thinking, is this guy fucking drunk? Like, that's on the tape from 4 hours ago. We're just kept. So there was 4 different sponsors, and I said it 4 different times. Each time he would stop the tape and go, and get increasingly angry. By the end, he's like, what the fuck are you not understanding about that word? And I go, I got to tell you, Larry. And I was 23 years old. I got to tell you, Larry. Like I said, all of that happened 4 hours ago. Unless you got a time machine, I would suggest you don't press play on that tape again.
Right, because you're gonna hear something you don't like.
You're gonna hear it again and again.
Where
and again
is
and again.
Larry now?
I think he
right.
Died. I think he died.
He shot himself.
The last words were fucking presentation.
Yeah, he shot himself after he went out when he realized it snows every day. Yeah. I thought I fucking shoveled you yesterday.
Don't miss that.
Oh, thanks, boys.
Thank you. Thank you, bro, Jake.
Thanks to brother Jake for joining us. We got to do that again. Jeff Woods at Jeff Woods Radio. OnlyFans, go and sign up for Jeff Woods Bedtime Stories. YouTube, Jeff Woods Radio on YouTube as well. He has got a podcast as well. Where can we download your podcast? What's the name of it again? Wherever you get your fine podcast.
Yeah, Records and Rockstars.
Records and Rockstars.
Yeah, wherever you get podcasts. Thank you.
Yeah, don't wave it off like it's not a big deal. It's like one of the top 10 podcasts in the country. It's fucking
awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Lock and Cross 95.7 Cruise FM, working for perhaps the best last group of people in the business. Congratulations for hanging in.
Broadcasting, good company.
Yep. Great company, great people.
They got a bunch of jobs right now. Hey, hold on. Radio people will listen to this. They got 2 morning shows and a couple of other gigs too. Christian just sent out a note the other day. So we're hiring, and they believe in local radio. So
is that Christian Hall?
Christian Hall, yeah.
Another guy wouldn't hire me.
Do you feel like going to Estevan?
No, I'm good.
We have It's a small company, 14 radio stations, right? So they've got 2 in Edmonton and 1 in Calgary. So there's not a lot of big market opportunities. But if you're trying to get into the business and trying to, or trying to get out of a shithole situation and get into a better one, you might want to look at some of these Harvard postings for sure. Great company.
Ronnie Stanton's hiring too. He wants somebody that really knows a lot about music.
What kind of music? Australian?
I think so.
I love the didgeridoo. Yes.
Yeah,
listen to that all day.
And brother Bill at Neil Talks on Twitter is where you can find Billy. Appreciate you doing this, dude. Thank you so much, brother Bill.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.
Great to
nice
see
to meet you, brother Bill.
Thanks, guys.
You, Lachlan. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Dean.
your day. We'll talk
Thank you,
to you
Woods.
soon. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Dean.
We'll see you soon.
That was
no problem.
awesome.
Appreciate it. Thanks, boys. That is Billy, Jake, Neil. Who's Billy? Fine collection of individuals that love the industry. Love the industry, doesn't love them back. Loves them, but doesn't want to love them. So they do their own thing. That's kind of what everybody's doing right now, right? Everybody kind of does their thing. It's like the fucking Wild West is what it is. It's kind of what I dig about it, to be honest with you, is that I can say stuff like, it's the fucking Wild West, and not look over my shoulder and wonder, oh, did I get my pass to the building taken away? No, I didn't. Because I live here. Anyway, appreciate it. Fellas, thanks for doing that. And you can get your podcast wherever you get your fine podcasts, including Apple, iTunes, etc. You can also find us on YouTube, Dean Blundell Show on YouTube. Twitch, I think Dean Blundell TV is what it's called. Got to change it. Got to change stuff. Keep it fresh. Thanks to all of our partners as well. Thanks to our friends at Blue Microphones, at Blue Microphones on Twitter, bluemic.com. Bottle cap mics, Blue Yeti X, USB mics, no preamps, any of that stuff. You don't need it because they know what they're doing. And if you want to sound like you know what you're doing and you're podcasting, broadcasting, go to @BlueMicrophones on Twitter or BlueMic.com. Gitch, my friend Ed, he sells it. It's absolutely the best underwear you'll buy. Guaranteed. Boxer briefs, pouch in the front for your junk ski. And he'll give you 4 pairs for the price of 3 right now and use promo code GITCH3, GITCH, then the number 3, GITCH3. Go to edsfineimports.com today. Black Rose Organics. Had a nice chat with my friend Paul. They are the official cannabis partner of DeanBlundell.com as well. And right now they're taking medical licenses. That's right. If you go to shop.blackroseorganics.com and you're tired of paying for gray market stuff that's totally uncontrolled, legacy market stuff, don't do it. You know what you're getting. These guys are craft cannabis connoisseurs. They give a shit about the plant. Black Rose Organics will help you also get your license. If you go to shop.blackroseorganics.com, you fill out the thing, they get back to you, and then they send you your stuff. The stuff is like nothing that exists in this province, country, maybe. For sure in this country. 30% THC in their garlic sherbet. Are you kidding me? That's when you know it fucking works. That's what I'm saying. BlackRoseOrganics.com. Get your license from them there as well. Super easy to do. So do it. Don't be silly. Don't wait. Domination.com as well. Thanks to our friend Adam and the crew over at Domination, DMNTN.com. If you do any kind of potting, any kind of video, potting, anything, you need AI to make that stuff work. These guys have developed software that make it so easy for you to produce content. It's nuts. Go to DMNTN.com today. Try it for free. Sign up for a newsletter at the site as well. Have a great day, all. Thanks for doing this, and we'll see you soon. Maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. We got a big show tomorrow with Obama's Secret Service agent, and Graham's coming back to the show. Kreitzer, he'll be here to talk about how sick he was for the past 3 weeks after he told me the vaccine was, the virus was shit. Don't worry about it. I thought he was going to die. Anyway, that and the rest of the Groove's back tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
It's not Woods.
Oh, shit. I think we need to hear that again. I loved it so much. Everybody has to laugh quietly. Stay dry.